I found myself transmigrated into the villainous male supporting role of a novel. The female CEO, Isabella, loathed me with a passion and was hell-bent on getting a divorce to reunite with her first love, Benjamin. I gleefully signed the divorce agreement, claimed half of Isabella's fortune, and then remarked with a smile, "May you have love while I enjoy wealth." I had transmigrated into the antagonist of a CEO romance novel. Lying on the expansive 200-square-meter bed, I was in a state of disbelief for quite some time before finally accepting this new reality. I recalled the plot of the book. My name was Daniel Williams. I had been infatuated with Isabella since childhood, but she had always held me in contempt. So, I resorted to various underhanded tactics to force her into marriage, and she had no choice but to comply due to family pressure. Later, she reconnected with her first love, Benjamin, and proposed a divorce. As part of the divorce settlement, Isabella would give me half of her assets. However, the original Daniel was so deeply in love with Isabella that he refused to divorce, continuously courted disaster by plotting against Benjamin, and ultimately met a tragic end. The original Daniel was not only foolish, but also a hopeless romantic, extremely naive. Therefore, if I wanted to live a long and healthy life, all I had to do was willingly sign the agreement when Isabella proposed divorce. In the evening, I sat at the dining table, waiting for Isabella to come home from work for dinner. After checking the time on my phone countless times, Isabella finally arrived. She didn't even spare a glance at the sumptuous dishes on the table and headed straight upstairs. I couldn't be bothered with her attitude. Whether she ate or not was her business. I picked up my chopsticks and took a bite of the succulent black abalone. It was delicious. Isabella really seemed like a Philistine who had no appreciation for fine dining. She only knew how to order takeout at the company all day long. After having my fill, I went upstairs and encountered Isabella, who had just finished showering and was about to go to the study to work. She was wearing a bathrobe, with a beautiful face and fair skin. I was momentarily taken aback. Isabella shot me a glare. "Daniel, keep your eyes to yourself," she snapped. I curled my lip, looking at her cold expression as if I owed her a fortune. Then I understood what the term abstinent style really meant. It completely killed any romantic feelings. Even a portrait of Chairman Mao would make my heart flutter more. Now, my life motto was, stay away from Isabella, cherish wealth. Isabella and I slept in separate rooms, and there was no physical intimacy between us. The original Daniel used to constantly go and bother Isabella in the middle of the night, only to be thrown out every time. His audacity was truly astonishing. The next day, I woke up naturally and then went on a shopping spree at the mall. I only picked the most expensive items and didn't even give a second look to anything priced below 100,000 yuan. Of course, I was using Isabella's bank card. The only pity was that I couldn't max out her card. It wasn't my fault. She was just too wealthy. It didn't matter. I'd continue my shopping spree tomorrow. Although the original Daniel was a rich second generation, his parents favored his sister over him and left all the family property to her. If I wanted to become a wealthy tycoon, I could only rely on myself. When I got home, the maid came over and asked what dishes to prepare for lunch to send to the company. Only then did I remember that the original Daniel would send lunch to Isabella every day, but she would never eat it and would just throw it away. Wasting food was unacceptable. Besides, why should I humiliate myself by trying to please her? I wasn't that stupid. I waved my hand and said, "No need. I won't be sending lunch anymore." After lunch, I received a call from Isabella, telling me that I had to accompany her to a banquet that evening. Even though Isabella hated me, she still needed to maintain a pretense in public. As night fell, Isabella and I arrived at the banquet. Someone joked, "Mr. Williams and Ms. Garcia are truly a perfect couple. Their children will surely be charming." Isabella, holding my arm, didn't respond. I smiled and replied with some polite words, but in my mind, I was thinking, have children? Ridiculous. Throughout the evening, I accompanied Isabella, socializing and smiling until my face ached. It was all just an act. After a while, the flatterers left, and I finally had the chance to drink some juice to soothe my throat and rest my tired legs. It was exhausting. Even professional actors might not find it this tiring. But the thought of the money I'd get after the divorce instantly energized me. I looked at Isabella as if she were a walking bag of money. I couldn't wait for the divorce. Half of her assets were extremely enticing. Isabella might be a bit difficult, but she was generous. Thinking about this, I even found her a little more tolerable. Isabella noticed my gaze and, seeing my eager eyes, frowned in disgust and said, "Daniel, don't delude yourself into thinking I'll ever fall in love with you. It's never going to happen, not in this lifetime." I rolled my eyes internally. Stop being so self-centered. The only thing I loved was money. I hoped that in the future, when people cursed me, they would curse me for being so rich that I had nothing but money. After the banquet ended, Isabella and I walked out, and I saw a man in a white shirt standing not far away. The male lead, Benjamin. I immediately clenched my right hand tightly because according to the original plot, as soon as I saw Benjamin, I would rush over and punch him, and then Isabella would slap me. I didn't want to get hit. Besides, I had just had some expensive facial treatments at the beauty salon that afternoon. Isabella and Benjamin had met in college. Although Benjamin came from a poor family, he was handsome, strong-willed, and optimistic. His indomitable spirit had attracted Isabella. Later, when Isabella's mother discovered their relationship, she forced them apart, offering Benjamin $2 million to leave. Benjamin didn't take a single cent. Unable to endure Isabella's mother's humiliation, he broke up with Isabella. If it were me, I would have bargained for a better price and would have agreed if they offered $200 million. What was so special about Isabella? Her personality was cold, neither gentle nor endearing. She was just good-looking, but good looks couldn't put food on the table. At that moment, Benjamin was looking at us with a pained expression, his eyes filled with tears. To be exact, he was looking at Isabella because seeing us together had broken his heart. Don't be sad. My relationship with Isabella is just a show. It's not real, I thought to myself. Isabella's expression changed suddenly, and she hurried forward, but Benjamin turned and walked away. Watching them play out this chase and escape drama, I almost wanted to grab a chair and enjoy the show. This was a sweet romance novel, after all. The male and female leads were the main couple, and I was just a side character. Isabella still caught up with Benjamin and grabbed his hand. Benjamin turned his head away, deliberately ignoring her. Isabella anxiously tried to explain, and then the two of them hugged tightly. Finally, they walked away hand in hand, completely forgetting about me. Isabella was so devoted. If I weren't the one being cheated on, I would have applauded them. I had just turned around to hail a taxi when I felt a piercing gaze on me. I quickly realized it was Olivia Garcia, Isabella's older sister, the heir to the Garcia group, who had a cold and distant personality. Looking at her haughty and indifferent face, I suddenly understood that their frosty demeanor might be in their genes. I greeted her respectfully, "Ms. Garcia." Olivia stared at me intently. "Your wife left you for another man, and you don't seem the least bit upset." Of course, I wasn't upset. I wasn't the love-struck fool I used to be. Right now, all I wanted was to divorce Isabella, claim half of her assets, and live a life of luxury. I lowered my head and sighed. What's the use of being upset? Fortune doesn't favor the bitter-hearted. Olivia studied me for a long time before saying, "I'll give you a ride home." Since Olivia was offering, and it was indeed hard to get a taxi there, I replied, "Then I'll have to trouble you, Ms. Garcia." The car ride was filled with an awkward silence. When we arrived, Olivia even opened the car door for me. I was about to thank her when she leaned in close. I looked up and saw her beautiful face just inches away. I held my breath, my heart pounding. To be honest, Olivia was only 3 years older than Isabella, but she was more sophisticated and seemed even more unapproachable. So, I had always kept my distance from her. Goodness, could it be that she had developed feelings for me? But I didn't remember this part in the book. Olivia said calmly, "Get some rest." I let out a sigh of relief. If that's all you wanted to say, why get so close? Thank you, Ms. Garcia, for the ride. In the subsequent days, Isabella and I maintained an uneasy truce. She was engrossed in her dates with Benjamin, while I was immersed in a whirlwind of shopping sprees, spending my days browsing luxury malls and my nights attending high-profile auctions, all in a bid to amass more wealth within the limited time. That is, until one evening when Isabella returned from work and was taken aback by the sight of the uneaten leftovers on the table. In the past, no matter how late she came home, the original Daniel would always wait patiently to dine with her. I casually licked the caviar from the corner of my lips and said, If you're hungry, just ask the kitchen to whip something up. Oh, and I wouldn't mind some midnight snacks later. Then, I got up, ready to indulge in a drama marathon in the home theater. Isabella suddenly asked, "You've been having a great time shopping lately, haven't you?" Her question made me pause. Was she concerned about me draining her bank account? "Do you think I've been splurging too much?" I asked tentatively. Isabella replied icily, "No, but you shouldn't leave your purchases strewn everywhere. We each have our own walk-in closet, and they're right next to each other." It seemed she had seen the chaos of my shopping hauls on the floor. She was not only a stickler for cleanliness, but also a perfectionist who couldn't stand any mess. "All right, I'll tidy up later," I conceded. Suddenly, I remembered something and said, "Then could you stop leaving your socks all over the place? You even tossed them in front of my door." Isabella's face darkened immediately. "Since when do you think you can lecture me? Who do you think you are?" Fine, fine. You're the boss." I didn't bother arguing and instead said, "By the way, I'm planning a vacation to the Maldives." I knew Mrs. Garcia would soon discover Isabella's rekindled relationship with Benjamin and ask me to deal with him. The original Daniel was consumed by jealousy and was willing to do anything to get rid of Benjamin. With Mrs. Garcia's permission, he had spiraled down a path of self-destruction. But Benjamin was the male lead with a protagonist's halo. What chance did I, an insignificant side character, have against him? My best bet was to lie low, and a vacation was the perfect way to avoid the impending drama. Isabella didn't object. She had never cared about me anyway, as long as I stayed out of her way. But while I was relaxing on the beaches of the Maldives, sunbathing and admiring the beautiful scenery, I received a call from Mrs. Garcia, ordering me to return immediately. I silently cursed Isabella in my mind. Couldn't she be more careful and avoid getting caught by her mother? I hadn't had my fill of the idyllic paradise yet, but I reluctantly booked a flight back. As soon as I got home, Isabella called. "Daniel, you know very well that I love Benjamin. Let's get a divorce." My heart raced with excitement, even more so than when I first transmigrated. Trying to sound calm, I replied, "Sure." My immediate agreement left Isabella speechless on the other end. Worried she might not have heard me clearly, I prompted, "So, have you prepared the divorce papers?" Isabella asked in disbelief. "You actually agree to the divorce?" I let out a sigh. "What's the point of refusing? You've never loved me." Isabella said, "My assistant will send the agreement to your place later." "Got it," I replied eagerly. As expected of a CEO's assistant, the efficiency was remarkable. Half an hour later, I held the divorce agreement in my hands, my heart pounding as I stared at the astronomical figures. I counted the zeros until my fingers ached. There was no way I could ever spend it all. I pinched my lip hard. Ouch, it hurt. This was no dream, it was real. With trembling hands, I quickly signed my name and handed the document to Isabella's assistant. "Ask your boss, can we go get the divorce certificate right now?" The assistant was taken aback. He had expected some resistance or at least a show of sadness, but here I was, practically jumping for joy. Still, he followed instructions and called Isabella. Then he informed me, "Ms. Garcia said it's okay. She's on her way to pick you up." I hummed a cheerful tune as I went upstairs to change. When I came back down, the assistant looked at me in surprise. I had dressed even more stylishly than on our wedding day. I smiled. After all, I was about to become obscenely rich, and this called for some ceremony. Once in the car, Isabella eyed me up and down. "You seem rather happy," she remarked. My wide grin froze slightly. I turned to look at her. I thought, "I've never received an ounce of your love, so why shouldn't I be thrilled about this fortune?" But since we hadn't finalized the divorce yet, I had to play it cool. I put on a pained expression and asked, "Do we really have to do this?" As expected, she was repulsed by my act. Isabella said coldly, "Yes, we do." That put my mind at ease. After a moment, she asked, "Is there anything you want to add to the agreement?" I smiled. "No, it's perfect." But my elation was short-lived. Just as we were on our way, we hit a traffic jam. I kept urging the driver, "Hurry up. What if the Civil Affairs Bureau closes?" Isabella gave me a strange look. I quickly came up with an excuse. "You're so busy. I don't want to waste your work time." Seeing that the traffic wasn't moving, I got out of the car to investigate. Turns out, some guy was driving while chatting on the phone. I knocked on his window. "Hey man, hang up the phone. I'm in a hurry to get divorced." "This is an emergency." The driver looked at me in disbelief. He'd seen people getting divorced, but never someone so desperate to end their marriage. I got back in the car to find Isabella on the phone, her brow furrowed. After she hung up, she told the driver, "Change of plans. Head to the family mansion." My heart sank. Damn it, Isabella. If you back out now, I swear I'll kill that lucky tree in your office. But then I thought better of it. I still needed her to keep making money so I could get a bigger cut. When we arrived at the mansion, we found out that Mrs. Garcia had fainted upon hearing about Isabella's divorce plans. Mr. Garcia was giving Isabella a stern lecture. I stood by, silent, pinching my thighs hard to make my eyes look red. Isabella was determined to divorce me, and I was just as determined to get my half of the fortune, so I had to keep up the act of being heartbroken. In the end, Isabella knelt at the front door, hoping to persuade her parents to approve the divorce. And as luck would have it, it started pouring rain. I couldn't hide my glee. This was perfect. A servant rushed to me and said, "Son-in-law, the mistress wants you to talk some sense into the second young lady." I nodded seriously. Got it. 10 minutes later, I was sitting on the steps, munching on sunflower seeds and watching Isabella kneel in the rain. This is like a scene from a cheesy romance drama. Come on, rain harder. The servant couldn't stand it and was about to offer Isabella an umbrella, but I stopped her. If it's not dramatic enough, they won't give in. I want this divorce to happen as soon as possible. Go get me a cup of tea. The servant was left stunned. This son-in-law was nothing like he used to be. Isabella, being the delicate rich girl she was, caught a fever after kneeling for a short while. The servant rushed her to her room and called the doctor. I took a look at the thermometer, 38 degrees. She wasn't in any real danger. After dismissing the servant, I poured Isabella a glass of water. "If you want this divorce to go through faster, you might want to step up your game," I said. Isabella coughed and asked, "What do you mean?" I suggested she go on a hunger strike. And it worked like a charm. The Garcias were heartbroken seeing their daughter sick and refusing to eat. I was heartbroken too. Every day the divorce was delayed meant losing out on potential interest. In the end, they had no choice but to give their blessing to the divorce. Mrs. Garcia felt sorry for me and pulled me into her room, presenting me with a priceless imperial jade pendant. She had always been generous to me, often showering me with valuable gifts. I burst into fake tears and hugged her leg, crying, "Mom, I don't want to leave." What I really didn't want to leave was her treasure trove of valuables. If I could, I'd beg her to adopt me as her godson. As I descended the stairs, I encountered Olivia. Her eyes, usually cold and calculating, held a hint of curiosity as she asked, "You used to be so infatuated with Isabella. Aren't you heartbroken seeing her in such a state?" Truth be told, I was more concerned about my missed bowl of bird's nest soup than Isabella's well-being. Since our divorce was just around the corner, I couldn't be bothered to feign affection anymore. I casually shrugged and replied, "The lovesick phase? It's curable, and I'm already cured." Olivia's sudden smile caught me off guard. I'd never seen her express any warmth before, and with so little information about her in the original book, I felt a twinge of unease. Just as I was trying to figure her out, a commotion erupted outside. I stepped out and saw Benjamin. He was pacing restlessly at the entrance, demanding to see Isabella. I wasn't in the mood to play the role of a helpful bystander, so I simply told the servants to let him in. Benjamin looked at me, his eyes pleading. "We've known each other for a while. I never intended to interfere in your marriage." I nodded nonchalantly. "Of course you didn't. You're the main character in this wish fulfillment story, the one who always comes out on top. And me? As the villainous side character, I'd get blamed even if I did nothing. Isabella and I are getting divorced anyway." Benjamin stared at me in shock. "You actually agreed? It would be absurd if I hadn't." Only he saw Isabella as the most precious thing in the world. I confirmed with another nod and then led him upstairs. But unexpectedly, Benjamin missed a step and started to fall backward. He let out a startled yell. I lunged forward to grab him, but it was too late. I watched in horror as he tumbled down the stairs and landed with a sickening thud, a pool of blood quickly forming beneath him. My right eyelid twitched violently. I remembered a part in the book where the original Daniel was supposed to push Benjamin down the stairs on purpose. But I didn't do it. I was speechless, my mind racing with fear. At the hospital, Benjamin remained in the emergency room. Isabella was seething with anger, her gaze on me like a dagger, as if she wanted to rip me apart. I felt more Yanwang than anyone. Daniel, you'd better hope Benjamin survives. Otherwise, I'll make you pay dearly, Isabella threatened. I wanted to yell at her, reminding her of how I'd taken care of her when she was sick. But the thought of the original Daniel's tragic fate made me shudder. I instinctively pressed myself against the wall, already imagining the worst-case scenario. I didn't do it. I protested. Isabella scoffed. Daniel, you still want to deny it? I saw it. He didn't push him. A calm voice interrupted. I turned to see Olivia, who seemed to have materialized out of nowhere. Ms. Garcia, please help me, I pleaded. Just then, the operating room door opened, and the doctor emerged, stating that Benjamin had suffered a concussion and a fractured right leg and would need to be hospitalized. Isabella was so preoccupied with worry that she had no time to deal with me. When Benjamin woke up, Isabella asked him, "Did Daniel push you down the stairs?" Benjamin glanced at me and shook his head. "No, it was an accident. I just lost my balance." The heavy weight on my chest finally lifted. Despite the unexpected turn of events, thankfully, the main character's integrity remained intact. Otherwise, I'd be in big trouble. It was clear that I needed to stay away from them in the future to avoid more such incidents. The next morning, Isabella and I went to finalize the divorce. When I held the divorce certificate in my hands, tears welled up in my eyes, not out of sadness, but pure joy at the thought of my new, found wealth. I wiped my tears and smiled at Isabella. May you find love, and may I find fortune. Without waiting for her response, I got into my Maserati and drove away. Among the assets Isabella divided, there were several properties. I chose a spacious apartment with a breathtaking view. I passed on the over 1,000 square meter villa because I didn't want to spend money on hiring servants. After the divorce, I indulged in a life of luxury. Every morning, I'd wake up and check my bank account's interest first, then go out to savor delicious food, enjoy drinks, and travel. The only annoyance was when my parents learned about the divorce and called to berate me for costing them some benefits. A large money transfer quickly silenced them. As the saying goes, money isn't everything, but it sure solves a lot of problems. After returning from Bali, I heard about a trendy bar and decided to check it out one evening. I believed in enjoying life to the fullest. I kept it simple, just ordering a few drinks, no expensive bottles or escorts. To my surprise, I ran into Olivia. She seemed like a regular there. I thought to myself, she acts all high and mighty, but she secretly likes hanging out in places like this. She noticed me right away. I greeted her warmly, thinking that she might be useful if I ever got into trouble. Ms. Garcia. Olivia sat down beside me and smiled faintly. You seem to be thriving after the divorce, she remarked. I laughed it off. Not too bad. She was quite reserved, not ordering any male companions, just sipping her drink quietly. But she had a low tolerance for alcohol and was soon tipsy. As it got late and I was about to leave, she suddenly grabbed my hand, refusing to let go. The men around were eyeing her hungrily, all eager to spend time with her. I had no choice but to take her with me. When I went to pay the bill, I was shocked to see that the wine she'd consumed cost $150,000. I shot her a fierce glare. What a waste, I muttered through gritted teeth as I reluctantly paid, my heart aching. I didn't know where she lived, and I couldn't take her back to the Garcia mansion in her state. I was worried about the misunderstandings it might cause. I was already a minor character at risk of being written off. In the end, I had no option but to bring her to my place. If it weren't for her standing up for me at the hospital, I wouldn't have bothered. I carried her to the guest room and tucked her into bed before going back to my own room to sleep. I slept soundly and was woken up by the enticing smell of food in the morning. Since I didn't have a maid, I wondered who was cooking. I quickly got out of bed and rushed to the kitchen. To my surprise, it was Olivia, the so-called cold-hearted CEO. I never expected her to be able to cook. She looked at me. Go freshen up. Breakfast is ready. I hurried to brush my teeth, wash my face, and even took the time to shave, wanting to look presentable. The breakfast she made was exquisite, from the perfectly fried eggs to the neatly arranged dishes. It was a far cry from Isabella, who lived on takeout and had messed up her stomach as a result. Serves her right, I thought. Remembering something important, I cleared my throat. Ms. Garcia, I began. She looked up at me. What is it? She asked, feigning innocence. I wasn't going to let her off easily. Please transfer me the $150,000 for last night's bar bill. And next time you go to a bar, give me a heads up so I can avoid that place." Just then, my phone vibrated. I checked it and saw an extra $50,000 in my account. Thank you for not leaving me at the bar," she explained. I forced a laugh. It was just the right thing to do. She frowned. "Are you calling me old?" I realized my mistake and quickly backtracked. No. You're young, beautiful, and stunning. I'm the one who's out of touch. And by the way, this breakfast is amazing." Her expression softened, and I breathed a sigh of relief, feeling like I was navigating a minefield around her. With idle days stretching out before me, I decided it was time to seek some occupation. Knowing Olivia had extensive connections, I gave her a call, hoping she could help me find a job. After a moment of thought, she replied, "My secretary just went on maternity leave. You could fill in for her." The original Daniel had been lazy, lacking both competence and specific skills. So, a secretary's job involving simple tasks like fetching coffee and delivering files seemed like a good fit, and I readily agreed. However, when I arrived at the office, I discovered that Olivia's workspace was on the same floor as mine. To make matters worse, I ran into Isabella. It felt like a never-ending cycle of bad luck. Isabella sneered at me. "Daniel, we're divorced. Stop following me around." To be fair, the old Daniel had been rather persistent in his pursuit of her, but I wasn't going to take the blame for his actions. "You've got it all wrong. I'm here to work," I retorted. Isabella scoffed. "All you're good for is loafing around and spending money. What kind of work could you possibly do? I know you're just trying to get close to me." I didn't bother arguing further. "Isabella, narcissism is a serious issue. You should get it checked out." Her eyes widened in surprise. This wasn't the kind of response the old Daniel would have given. Without another glance, I turned and walked away, exuding a newfound confidence. I'd assumed the secretary job would be a breeze, but I was sorely mistaken. Olivia was a workaholic on a whole new level. I was swamped with tasks, too busy even to glance at my phone. Sensing my struggle to adapt, Olivia offered to treat me to a nice dinner that evening. That offer alone was enough to quell my thoughts of quitting. The hardship seemed bearable after all. One evening, as we stepped out of the elevator, I suddenly lost my footing. I braced myself for a fall, but Olivia's quick reflexes saved me. Her hand shot out to grab my arm, pulling me upright. For a moment, our eyes met, and my heart skipped a beat. Just then, Isabella's voice shattered the moment. "Sis," she exclaimed, eyeing me suspiciously. "Daniel, what are you up to?" I rolled my eyes internally. "Working and making money, obviously. When did she get so dim-witted?" I thought. "Thank you, Ms. Garcia," I said. Isabella turned to Olivia, warning, "Sis, he's not to be trusted. Don't let him deceive you." Olivia calmly replied, "Daniel is my secretary now. Show him some respect." I silently cheered in my mind. "Ms. Garcia, you're amazing. I knew I could count on you." Isabella opened her mouth to protest, but Olivia had already led me away, leaving her standing there, stunned. I couldn't help but wonder what Olivia's gesture meant. During dinner, Olivia suddenly asked, "Do you still have feelings for Isabella?" I paused, mid-bite of a succulent king crab. "Let's not talk about her. She's bad luck, and it's ruining my appetite." Olivia let out a laugh, which left me puzzled. She was so serious at work, and here I was, talking about her sister. As days passed, I gradually adapted to the rhythm of work. It was busy, but Olivia was much more even-tempered than Isabella, who used to lash out at people at the slightest provocation. But my peaceful days were short-lived. One night, I was knocked unconscious outside my home. As I faded into darkness, my last thought was, I need to move. This neighborhood is too dangerous. When I regained consciousness, I found myself hanging in mid-air. One wrong move, and I'd be nothing but a splat on the ground. To my horror, I saw that Benjamin was also a captive. I immediately recognized the cliché plot unfolding before me. But couldn't these kidnappers be more creative? Why kidnap me, the useless ex-husband? I was of no use in threatening Isabella. Olivia soon arrived with the ransom money. I knew she was here for Benjamin, and she didn't spare me a single look. It turned out the kidnappers were Isabella's enemies. I wanted to scream at them. "You've got the wrong person. Go after Isabella herself." In the end, the kidnappers forced Isabella to choose. Save me or save Benjamin. It was a cruel choice designed to torment her. I wasn't surprised when she didn't hesitate to choose Benjamin. If she had picked me, that would have been a miracle. Was this the end for me? My luxurious life had only just begun. I regretted my stinginess at the bar and wished I'd splurged a little more. Just as the rope was cut and I began to fall, I closed my eyes, bracing for impact. But instead of pain, I felt a soft landing. I opened my eyes to see a thick cushion beneath me, and Olivia crouched beside me, concern written all over her face. "Are you okay? Are you hurt?" she asked. Gratefully, I grabbed her clothes. "Ms. Garcia, I'll repay you in my next life, even if I have to be your servant. For now, I just want to enjoy life." With that, I passed out from the shock. When I woke up in the hospital, weak but alive, I was overjoyed. I heard that Isabella was in the next room, injured, and I immediately tried to get out of bed. I want to be discharged. I need to stay as far away from Isabella as possible. Just then, Isabella walked in. "The nurse said you want to leave?" she asked. I nodded vigorously. "I'm fine. Staying here with you is just asking for trouble." Olivia entered the room and gently pushed me back onto the bed. "Rest," she commanded. "Ms. Garcia, behave," I pleaded, but I couldn't help but hold onto her arm. "Don't leave me." She nodded, and in that moment, I felt safe. After a nap, the test results came back normal. I was in the clear. As I was about to be discharged, Olivia asked, "Isabella is next door. Do you want to see her?" I shook my head vehemently. "No way." But as I left the ward, I still ran into Isabella and Benjamin. Benjamin had been injured while chasing the kidnappers, but it wasn't serious. I quickly hid behind Olivia. "Ms. Garcia, let's go." Olivia took my hand, giving me courage. "Don't be afraid," she said. Isabella glared at us, but Olivia ignored her and led me away with confidence. Outside the hospital, as I looked down at our intertwined hands, I couldn't deny the growing feelings between us. "Ms. Garcia," I started. She stopped, and before I could say anything else, she leaned in and kissed me. I was stunned, my mind blank. This was never in the book. When she pulled away, her eyes locked onto mine. I felt my face heat up. "Do you want Isabella to call you brother-in-law?" she teased. I laughed at the thought and nodded eagerly. "Yes." And just like that, Olivia and I became a couple. But I never expected Isabella to come to me, waving a check. "Daniel, you're all about the money, right? I'll give you 20 million to leave my sister." Before I could respond, Olivia wrapped her arms around me from behind. "Daniel, I'll give you 200 million if you marry me," she said. I hugged her back tightly. There was no way I was going to let her go for a measly 20 million. "So, will you marry me?" Olivia asked. I looked into her eyes and replied, "I will." Then I turned to Isabella. "Well, say it, brother-in-law." Isabella's face turned sour, but under Olivia's stern gaze, she finally muttered, "Brother-in-law." With a laugh, I picked Olivia up in my arms. "Let's go get married."